make you throw up, I don't know what does. Gushing over the victory last night. By the way, no Cam Brent, no Kelsey Plum in this game. And a mediocre team anyway that they were playing last night. Oh, fuck it. The Fever are a mediocre team right now. What are we talking about? Let's just keep it real. Stephanie White.
Hey, great job. I'm really proud of you.
That emotion right there, that's not just pride in a win. Watch Stephanie White's face when she talks about tires. Now compare that to literally any compliment she's given Caitlin Clark this season. The contrast is impossible to ignore. And last night's game against the Sparks revealed something that's been simmering under the surface all season long. Caitlin Clark didn't play. Back injury, throat injury, groin injury. The official injury report looked like a medical textbook. But here's what actually happened. The Fever's franchise player, the reason most of those tickets were sold weeks ago, sat on the bench while Stephanie White got exactly what she wanted, a team without Caitlin Clark.
Ticket sales are great. And yeah, we very much take note when there's 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 fans missing. But people had bought tickets to try to see this right here. All right, this was Caitlin Clark walking out for last night's game, and there's Kate Martin right there.
Let's talk about those ticket sales, because this is where it gets interesting. The overwhelming majority of tickets for this Fever Sparks game were purchased before the Mercury game earlier in the week. Not because fans were dying to see the Fever's defensive schemes, not because Kelsey Mitchell was having a career year. They bought tickets for one reason, the Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin reunion, Iowa connection. That's what sells. Former teammates, college legends, the kind of storyline that turns casual fans into ticket buyers. People wanted to see that moment when they'd face each other on opposite sides of the court for the first time. Instead, they got Stephanie White's ideal roster construction, and she couldn't hide how happy that made her.
You know, that Iowa connection is star power. And if the WNBA realized that, they would market the shit out of Kay Martin, Lucy Olsen, and anybody else that even sniffed the Iowa roster. I mean, seriously. So, this was the look 5 minutes before the game, okay? Right here, you can see there were a ton of tickets. A ton of tickets. Now, or a ton of empty seats, tickets. A ton of empty seats. Right up here, right up here, right up here, right up here. Right up here, right up here.
Look at those empty seats 5 minutes before tip-off. Upper bowl, scattered throughout the lower sections. Now, most of those eventually filled in. Let's be clear about that. The attendance numbers looked respectable on paper, but here's what the attendance figures won't tell you. This wasn't a win for the Fever or the WNBA. Those tickets were already purchased days earlier when fans thought they'd see Caitlin and Kate share the court. They showed up because they'd already paid. The real test isn't butts in seats when tickets are already sold. The real test is what happens on television, CBS primetime broadcast, national audience. That's where the boycott shows up. That's where the money actually lives. Because you can't hide television ratings the way you can spin attendance numbers.
Also, these tickets were sold days ago. I checked prior to the Mercury game. The TV ratings will be the measuring stick here. By the way, people thought they were going to get to see Caitlin Clark and Kate Martin. Okay, so that's a thing. That's a thing. Do not let people let you believe last night was a win. If the CBS ratings come back and they're less than, let's say, 1.4 million, well, didn't they just have a nationally televised game that was like 2.5 million views?
And right on cue, here comes the spin. Some talking head on social media celebrating the third highest attended game of the season, taking shots at the boycott movement, calling it political. Missing the entire point. The tickets were sold before anyone knew Caitlin would sit. Before the controversy exploded. Before fans had a reason to tune out. The attendance proves nothing except that people bought tickets hoping to see Iowa's finest go head-to-head. What matters now is the CBS ratings. If that number comes back under 1.4 million viewers, we've got a problem. Think about this. The Fever just had a nationally televised game that pulled 2.5 million viewers. That's the baseline when Caitlin plays. So if this game without her drops to under $1.5 million, that's not just a dip, that's a 40% collapse. That's fans actively choosing not to watch. And in professional sports, media rights deals are where the real money flows. You want to hit a league in the wallet? Don't turn on your TV.
It was nice to not sweat one out, right? It was nice to come in and to have high energy, right? To play together, to continue to build on a lead. Ty? It's the ultimate, I hope you understand, it's the ultimate compliment that we can trust you to start you in a game and to play you these kind of minutes and to know that you're going to show up. Bree Hall! Was that your first career three, right?
Yeah.
Really good team win. I'm proud of you guys.
Now let's talk about what actually happened in that locker room after the game. Stephanie White is practically giddy, praising Tyers like she just won Finals MVP, talking about trust and minutes and showing up. Meanwhile, Kelsey Mitchell scored 26 points, and she's beaming because suddenly she's the focal point again. No Caitlin Clark means no generational talent overshadowing everyone else. No rookie breaking records every night. No media circus asking why the offense doesn't run through the number 22 overall pick instead of the player who actually sells tickets. For one night, Stephanie White got to coach the team she probably wishes she had. Veteran players, familiar faces, no rookie phenom complicating her rotations.
Stephanie White was on the verge of tears talking about Ty Harris's performance. Meanwhile, when it comes to praising Caitlin Clark, every compliment sounds like it's given under duress or gets turned into a group project. The contrast is hard to ignore. Shaking my head. Yeah, I mean, if Stephanie White praises Caitlin Clark, it's like pulling teeth in the dentist office. Let's just be real. It takes everything in her soul to give Caitlin Clark a compliment.
And fans noticed immediately. Social media lit up with the comparison. When Stephanie White compliments Caitlin Clark, it sounds like a hostage reading a script. Every word is carefully chosen, qualified, turned into a team achievement. We all contributed. It was a group effort. Everyone played their role. But watch her talk about Tyers after one solid game against a mediocre Sparks team that was missing Cam Brink and Kelsey Plum. Suddenly it's tears in her eyes, talking about ultimate compliments and trust. The contrast isn't subtle, it's not even hidden. It's right there in high definition for anyone paying attention. Last season gave us a preview of what Stephanie White actually wants. A team built around Kelsey Mitchell and veteran role players. A system she controls completely without a rookie rewriting the record books and forcing adjustments. And here's the uncomfortable truth. One of these two isn't going to be with the Fever much longer.
And again, I think last year's run in the long term is going to hurt Caitlin Clark's existence with the Fever and or Stephanie White's existence. One of the two will not be on the team. Caitlin Clark will either be like, F it, I'm fed up, I want to be traded, or Stephanie White's going to get run out. And if I own an organization, your ass is hitting the bricks. I'm not losing Caitlin Clark under any circumstances.
Either Caitlin Clark gets fed up and demands a trade, or Stephanie White gets shown the door. And if you're the Fever ownership, that's not even a difficult decision. You don't lose a generational talent who fills arenas and crashes streaming servers because your coach can't figure out how to make it work. You just don't. But there's a bigger issue brewing here beyond just coaching dynamics. This controversy that exploded this week, the one that generated more views and engagement than anything WNBA related in months, that happened because of Caitlin Clark. The Roadshow channel saw its highest traffic in a year. This channel had its biggest 3-day stretch of the season. All because people care about what happens to Caitlin Clark.
The amount of views, and the Matrix and Roadshow, which I did a couple of videos over there. Most views over there in a while. A long, long while. And it's because of Caitlin Clark. All right? Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Tell me in the comments section, did you watch the game? That will be the barometer. We will be watching. It's going to be very odd if the television ratings for this game don't surface. I believe they will because primetime CBS they're not going to be able to hide those ratings. All right. So we should get those ratings sometime probably Tuesday, I'm guessing. And that's going to be the barometer. Tell me what you think. Peace. I'm out.
So here's what we're watching for now. CBS has to release those television ratings. They can't hide a primetime broadcast number. We should see those figures by Tuesday, maybe Wednesday at the latest. And that number is going to tell us everything we need to know about whether fans actually followed through. If it comes back at 2 million plus, then the boycott didn't materialize and business continues as usual. If it drops below 1.5 million, that's a massive red flag. And if it falls under 1 million viewers, that's a crisis. That's fans actively rejecting the product when Caitlin Clark isn't on the floor. The WNBA has spent decades trying to build sustainable viewership, trying to prove they deserve better media deals and higher salaries and more investment. Then Caitlin Clark shows up and delivers all of that in one season. Record ratings, sold-out arenas, mainstream media coverage. And instead of building around that, instead of protecting that asset, we get nights like this, where the franchise player sits with a mysterious collection of injuries and the coach celebrates finally getting to run her preferred lineup. Think about the absurdity of that injury report. Back, throat, groin. That's not a basketball injury. That's what you list when you want someone to sit but can't just say rest because the optics are terrible. And maybe those injuries are legitimate. Maybe Caitlin genuinely needed the night off. But the timing is convenient. Right after a week of controversy. Right when the national spotlight is brightest. Right when Stephanie White gets to showcase her vision for the team. Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for Fever fans. They watched Caitlin Clark get physically beaten down all season. Flagrant fouls that went uncalled. Cheap shots after the whistle. Aaliyah Boston getting elbowed in the face with no consequences. The league's golden goose taking punishment while officials looked the other way. And through all of that she kept playing, kept showing up, kept delivering performances that broke viewership records. But now, after a week where fans rallied around her and called out the media treatment and demanded better, suddenly she can't play. And Stephanie White gets her perfect evening. Gets to praise role players without the complication of a generational talent, making everyone else look ordinary by comparison. Gets to win a game against a depleted opponent and act like they just solved all their chemistry issues. The reality is this Fever team is mediocre right now. They're fighting for a playoff spot in a league where making the postseason should be automatic with the talent they have. Caitlin Clark is averaging historic numbers as a rookie. Aaliyah Boston is a former Rookie of the Year. Kelsey Mitchell is a legitimate scorer. On paper, this roster should be dominating. Instead, they're grinding out wins against undermanned opponents and celebrating like they won a championship. And that brings us back to the central question. What does Stephanie White actually want? Because if last night was her vision of success, if that's the team she wants to build, then she's coaching the wrong franchise. The Fever didn't draft Caitlin Clark first overall to be a complementary piece. They didn't invest in a generational talent to run a system that works better without her. They made her the centerpiece because she's the best player in women's college basketball history, and she translates that to the professional level. But watching Stephanie White's body language all season, listening to her carefully worded compliments, seeing how she lights up when praising literally anyone else on the roster, you get the sense she never wanted this, never wanted a rookie who changes the entire dynamic, never wanted a player who's bigger than the system and forces adjustments. She wanted continuity, she wanted control, she wanted last year's team with minor upgrades. Instead, she got Caitlin Clark, and she doesn't know what to do with that. The Iowa connection that sells tickets and drives ratings, the WNBA should be marketing that relentlessly. Kate Martin, Lucy Olson, anyone who even practiced with that Iowa program. That's free money, that's built-in storylines and guaranteed interest. But the league doesn't think that way. They're too busy trying to spread attention equally, trying to make sure no one player gets too much shine, trying to maintain some mythical competitive balance that doesn't actually serve anyone. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark sits on the bench with 3 different injuries, and Stephanie White gets to coach her dream team for one night. Gets to prove that they can win without the drama and the attention and the rookie who won't just fit into the system quietly. And maybe that win feels good in the moment. Maybe it reinforces whatever vision she has for how this team should operate. But here's the thing about vision. It doesn't matter if it's wrong, and a vision for the Indiana Fever that works better without Caitlin Clark is objectively wrong. That's not opinion, that's math. That's television ratings and ticket sales and social media engagement. That's quantifiable value that no amount of veteran chemistry can replicate. So we wait for those CBS numbers. We watch to see if fans actually tuned out when Caitlin didn't play. We see if the boycott was real or just noise. And then we see how the Fever respond. Because if those ratings crater, if the numbers prove that fans only show up for one player, then ownership has a decision to make. Keep the coach who wants a different team, or keep the player who fills arenas. That's not a hard choice. That's not even a close call. You build around generational talent, you adjust your system, you find a coach who can maximize that player's gifts instead of resenting them. That's how professional sports works. That's how franchises win championships and build dynasties and create sustainable success. Or you can celebrate beating the Sparks without your best player and pretend that's progress. You can praise role players and talk about trust and convince yourself that chemistry matters more than talent. You can do all of that right up until the moment your franchise player demands out and takes her record-breaking viewership to a team that actually wants her. The choice is coming, probably sooner than anyone expects. And when it does, we'll find out what the Indiana Fever actually values, winning with Caitlin Clark or winning without her. Because after last night, it's clear which one Stephanie White prefers.